I was never supposed to hear it. It was 2:14 a.m. when I walked back into the house, shoes silent on the hardwood floor. I'd forgotten my phone charger at home. Just one of those dumb, everyday things. I wasn't supposed to be there, but that charger saved my life. As I passed the cracked door to the guest room, my wife claimed she needed space lately, whatever that meant. I heard her voice. Soft, sharp, snake-like. Whispering. But not alone. I've planned it all. He'll be accidentally hit by a car, and the inheritance will come to me, she breathed, voice trembling like she was unwrapping a gift she'd waited months to open. I can't wait to sell his company. The insurance payout is ours. He's insured for $500,000. My body stopped moving. My lungs forgot how to breathe. Every hair on my skin stood up like a field of nails. And then she giggled. Giggled. Like this was some twisted rom-com she and her side boy were the stars of. I can't wait to see it happen, she whispered again. I could hear her smile through the wall. That was the moment something inside me shattered. Not broke, not cracked, shattered. No yelling. No drama. No storming in. Just silence. The kind of silence that only exists right before everything turns to ash. Her name's Jessica, by the way. Yeah, the same Jessica who wore white on our wedding day and cried when I read my vows. The same Jessica who used to call me her forever man. Turns out forever lasted 5 years and a $500,000 policy. And the guy? His name's Blake. Some personal trainer with a six-pack and a peanut-sized brain. I used to joke that she had him on Instagram just for fitness inspo. Yeah, right. Turns out he was inspiring her all right. Usually when I was out late grinding for the very company she now wanted to sell. I disappeared into the shadows that night. Left the charger. Left everything. Got in my car. Drove until I reached the overlook above the city. And I stared down at the lights, thinking about how easily she had erased me. Planned my funeral with the same mouth that once whispered I was her whole world. She wanted a hit and run. She wanted the money. She wanted to watch me die. And worst of all, she wanted to laugh with him after it happened. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I opened a new tab, started making calls. Researching. Planning. Not for a funeral. For revenge. Because if she wanted to play cold, I was going to bring the *****ing Arctic. This isn't your typical story of heartbreak, man. This isn't about catching your girl cheating and crying into your whiskey. No, this is about being targeted by the one person you trusted most and choosing not to fall apart, but to watch the pieces fall exactly where you place them. And believe me, every single one of those pieces is going to slice. Because if Jessica thought she could fake a smile and forge a payout, then she forgot one thing. I built this empire. I made the rules. And now, I'm rewriting the ending. The next morning, Jessica came home humming. She wore that silky blue dress, the one I bought her for our anniversary dinner in Malibu. The same one she said made her feel like royalty. Now she was wearing it like armor, heels clicking across the floor as if nothing in the world was wrong. I sat at the kitchen counter, coffee in hand, pretending like my world hadn't imploded 7 hours ago. Oh, she blinked, clearly not expecting me there. You're up early. I smiled. Couldn't sleep. She walked over and kissed me. Lips cold. Soulless. I let it happen. I needed to see how far she'd take it. I was at Kara's last night, she said, pouring herself a glass of water like it wasn't the most transparent lie I'd ever heard. We stayed up watching that true crime documentary. Remember the one you fell asleep during? I nodded. Yeah, the one where the wife killed her husband? She froze just a second too long. A flinch. But it passed. That one. So twisted, right? Twisted. Yeah, no kidding. Why'd you wear that dress to Kara's? I asked casually. Thought that one was for special nights. She blinked again. Oh, she wanted to go out for drinks first. Just girls. Her lies were smoother than butter and twice as slick. The only problem? I knew everything. I had a tracker on her car now. Installed it myself at 4 a.m. when she was sleeping off her sins. And her trip to Kara's last night? It was a 2-hour stop at the Hampton in downtown. Room 307. Blake's truck in the lot. I even had a photo, could have been a movie poster, Trader Hearts, now showing. But I didn't show her anything yet. I wasn't ready. Revenge cooked best on a slow fire. Did Kara say anything interesting? I asked, sipping my coffee. Jessica chuckled. She's dating some guy who's, like, obsessed with her. It's cute, but kind of clingy. My blood boiled, but I smiled. Inside, I was cataloging every move. Every smirk. Every time her eyes darted left before she lied. She was acting like my life wasn't on the chopping block. Like she wasn't planning a car accident that would turn her into a $500,000 widow. The worst part? She was good at this. Real good. Like she'd done it before. Like I was just another project, another mark. But what she didn't know is that I had a mark of my own now. That afternoon, I paid a visit to my lawyer, Eli Morgan. Old friend. Trustworthy. Quiet. Need you to do something off the books, I told him. Estate stuff. Company shares. Quick. He raised an eyebrow. You getting a divorce? Not yet, I said. But I want all my assets frozen. Trusts moved. Company protected. Everything okay? I just smiled. She's about to have the worst week of her life. See, Jessica had forgotten that while she played games with hearts and bodies, I played with power. And I was just getting warmed up. Later that night, she crawled into bed next to me and whispered, I love you. And I whispered back, I know. Because that was the last lie I'd ever let touch my skin. By Thursday, I had already done what most men don't think to do until it's too late. I installed cameras. One in the garage, one above the front door, and a tiny one, the size of a pin tip, right in our bedroom, facing the mirror. The same mirror Jessica loved posing in for her Instagram stories. She thought she was hiding. But now I was watching. I didn't trust my wife. Not anymore. She was a performer now, and I was her silent audience. Every toss of her hair, every mysterious smile at her phone, none of it escaped me. That afternoon, she left for a yoga retreat upstate. Alone, she claimed. Time to reflect, she said. Recharge my energy. I didn't even blink. I simply kissed her forehead like a man who believed in her peace and watched her walk out the door with a weekend bag full of lingerie she never wore for me anymore. As soon as her car turned the corner, I logged into the live feed. 10 minutes later, Blake entered through the garage code. He was laughing, holding a bottle of red wine and a takeout bag. My wife greeted him wearing nothing but the robe I bought her in Italy. The same robe she said reminded her of our honeymoon. They kissed. Loud. Sloppy. Without guilt. Then, they dropped onto the bed like two animals who didn't know the meaning of the word loyalty. And I watched. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to. Needed to kill the last bit of hope still clawing in my chest that maybe this was a mistake. That maybe she could explain. She couldn't. She moaned his name. She laughed about how I still thought she did yoga. And then, between breaths, I heard her say it again. Soon, he'll be gone. He jogs every Saturday morning down the same road. It's all mapped out. Blake, we're so close. I paused the video. My hands shook. I had to bite the inside of my cheek to keep from screaming. She wasn't just planning. She was timing it. I thought I had weeks. Maybe months. But no. Saturday morning was 2 days away. I picked up my phone and called someone I never thought I would, Ruben Voss. Ex-cop, private security consultant, and someone who owed me a favor big enough to keep quiet. You still got friends who don't ask questions? I asked. Depends. What's on your mind, Ethan? My wife's planning a hit and run. I have video. I need protection. But more than that, I need to set a trap. I want them to feel safe before the hammer drops. There was silence on the other end. Then a low whistle. Jesus, Ruben muttered. All right, I'm in. By the time Jessica came back Sunday evening, flushed and glowing with fake spiritual energy, everything was already in motion. She walked through the door and said, You wouldn't believe how good it feels to disconnect. We should go together sometime. I nodded. Yeah, maybe we should. She kissed me. I kissed her back. But I was already gone. Just a shadow in her world now, watching from the corners. Calculating. That night, I watched the footage again. Every second burned into my mind. Her hands on him. Her voice. That goddamn smirk. But what she didn't know was that my Saturday run was about to become something much bigger. Because I wasn't going to be the one bleeding in the street. They were. Saturday came fast. The air was cold that morning, sharper than usual. The kind of cold that sinks into your bones and reminds you you're still alive, at least for now. I laced up my shoes like always, slipped in my earbuds, and stepped out onto the street like the good little husband she expected me to be. Jessica was still in bed, pretending to be asleep. But I saw it, the twitch of her fingers under the sheets. She was waiting, probably texting Blake as soon as I closed the door. I jogged like I always did. Same route, same pace, same turn down Sycamore Drive. Except this time, Ruben was parked one street over. Unmarked SUV. Windows tinted blacker than Blake's soul. He was on the radio with two of his guys, both ex-military. They were positioned on the corners with dash cams rolling and phones recording. One of them had a drone in the sky, tracking the street. Every angle covered. At 7:42 a.m., it happened. A silver Dodge Charger turned the corner too fast. Tires screeched like a horror film. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might jump out of my chest. He was gunning for me. Full speed. For a split second, I froze. That was the plan. Look helpless. Look like prey. But I wasn't. I dove left at the last second, rolled over the curb, landed hard. My shoulder scraped the pavement. Pain shot through me like lightning, but I was alive. The car slammed into the stop sign, metal bending like paper. The driver jumped out, hood up, screaming, SHD. SHD. It was Blake. No mask. No gloves. Just raw stupidity and sweat. He was pale. Shaking. Didn't even see Ruben's men surround him. By 7:46, he was in cuffs. By 7:49, two officers, real ones, this time, were pulling up to take statements. I played it perfectly. Injured husband. Near miss. Traumatized but calm. Blake looked at me like I was a ghost. Like he couldn't understand why I wasn't dead. You should be, he started, but the cop shoved him into the back seat before he could finish. I sat on the curb, clutching my shoulder, breathing steady. Ruben walked over and handed me a cold bottle of water. You good? I nodded. She's next. By 9 a.m., Jessica was already at the hospital. She came rushing into the ER room in yoga pants and a fake look of panic. My shoulder was in a sling. Nothing broken, just bruises. Oh my God, she gasped, throwing herself onto the bed. I got your text. I can't believe this happened. Who would do something like this? I stared at her. Just stared. She was shaking all over. Not from fear for me. No, from fear her plan failed. I leaned forward slowly, our faces inches apart. Her perfume smelled like expensive lies. Didn't you say I always take that turn at 7:40 sharp? I asked. She blinked. Once. Twice. Her lips parted. What? That's what you told Blake, right? I continued, voice low. Because I watched the footage. You know, the one where you two discussed my death like it was dessert. Her face lost all color. You're lying, she whispered, eyes darting around the room like someone looking for the fire escape. No, Jess, I said, finally letting my voice drop to a chill. You are. And you've run out of time. She stood there, frozen, for a long second, then turned and bolted out the door. That was the last time I saw her in person. She never made it home. She didn't know that Blake had already confessed, that he'd broken down the minute the cuffs clicked and started naming her in every word he could gasp through the tears. And me? I walked out of the hospital with my arm in a sling and my freedom in the other hand. But it wasn't over. Not even close. Now it was time to burn everything she ever loved. By Sunday morning, Jessica's face was already on the news. Not front page, yet, but a scroll beneath the screen. Local man survives targeted car attack. Police investigating connection to family dispute. She was smart enough to vanish before they knocked on the door, but not smart enough to realize I'd already iced every bank account she had access to. Every card she tried would flash red. Every dollar she thought was hers was gone. Shifted into trusts under my sister's name. An illegal firewall that would take 10 lifetimes to crack. I filed for divorce Monday morning. Grounds: attempted homicide, infidelity, and conspiracy. The clerk looked up from the paperwork when she saw the stack of evidence I placed on the counter. USB drives, photographs, transcripts. This one of those cases? She asked, raising an eyebrow. I smiled. You have no idea. Meanwhile, Jessica was trying to text me like nothing happened. Jess, please, we need to talk. This isn't what you think. Jess, they're twisting what he said. I didn't want you dead. Jess, you're scaring me. Good. I wanted her scared. I wanted her to sit in some cheap motel room with flickering lights and mold on the ceiling, clutching her phone like it was the last thread holding her fake world together. Because I wasn't just taking back my life. I was flipping the whole damn script. And the best part? She gave me every tool I needed. I had a friend at a marketing agency, Riley, who owed me big from our college days. He helped me push the story through the right channels. Not just news. Viral news. Suddenly, her face was everywhere. Her and Blake, caught on candid footage, planning my funeral like they were setting up a surprise party. One caption read, Yoga wife from hell, plans husband's death for insurance money, gets exposed by hidden cameras. Her Instagram, once filled with sunset shots and fake deep quotes, exploded with hate comments. Murder Barbie. Hope orange is your color. How many poses in prison? The influencer life she loved? Gone. Her manager dropped her. Sponsors vanished. Even her favorite wellness brand posted a statement. We are deeply disturbed by the allegations involving Jessica Morgan and are ending our collaboration effective immediately. Blake, on the other hand, was rotting in a cell. He tried to get a deal, claimed Jessica manipulated him. But the footage didn't lie, and I made sure the DA got it gift-wrapped with timestamps and a pretty bow. By the end of the week, both of them were charged, attempted murder and conspiracy to commit insurance fraud. But even that wasn't enough for me. Because this wasn't just about survival. This was about revenge. See, there was one thing Jessica forgot. Our honeymoon cabin. Tucked away in Colorado, 3 hours up the mountain. No cell signal. No neighbors. We'd spent 2 blissful weeks there once, planning our future. She called it our heaven. So I sold it. To a demolition company. Cash. And the day they bulldozed it into dust, I sent her the video link. She watched it, because I tracked the IP. A minute later, she messaged me again. Jess, why are you doing this? You're not this person. I stared at the screen for a long moment before replying. Me, you're right. I wasn't. But you made me him. And then I blocked her. No more texts. No more begging. No more lies. I was done with the past. But not done with the story. Because the best part of revenge isn't the explosion. It's the silence after. Where your enemy sits in the rubble and realizes. You were never the victim. The courthouse was colder than I remembered. Not in temperature, in energy. It was packed. Reporters hovered near the steps like vultures in suits. Cameras pointed like weapons. I walked in wearing a black tailored suit, not because I wanted to impress, but because I wanted Jessica to choke on the sight of what she lost. And when I saw her, God help me, I almost laughed. She looked like a shell. Gone was the glamorous wife with fake lashes and designer heels. In her place stood a woman in a wrinkled gray sweater, minimal makeup, hair tied back like she was auditioning for Pity Me, the musical. A public defender clung to her side like a bad perfume. She didn't look at me at first. Not until they called my name. Ethan Cole, please take the stand. I walked past her slowly, each step deliberate. She turned, just for a second, and her eyes locked on mine. There it was, fear. Not guilt. Not sadness. Just raw, sick fear. Good. I took the stand, swore in, and began the story I never thought I'd have to tell. How I met her. How I loved her. How I built everything we had, brick by brick, while she was building a script for my death. I described the night I overheard her whispering to Blake. The tone of her voice. The excitement. The words that made my blood freeze. I've planned it all. He'll be accidentally hit by a car, and the inheritance will come to me. I can't wait to see it happen. The court was silent. No one moved. Then I told them about the footage. About the cameras. About the failed hit and run. And how, even after nearly being killed, I didn't react with violence, but with precision. With evidence. With justice. Her lawyer tried to object. Claimed it was hearsay and manipulated. But the judge had already seen the footage. So had the jury. They weren't just hearing the truth. They were watching it. Blake was brought in later that afternoon, in handcuffs, still wearing that confused puppy dog expression like someone who'd just learned the world wasn't fair. He pled guilty on the spot. Said it was Jessica's idea. Claimed she promised him a life in Mexico with my money and my company. Jessica's defense? Temporary insanity. She blamed hormones. Stress. Claimed she never really meant it. When they played the video of her laughing in lingerie, telling Blake she wanted to watch it happen, her lawyer buried his face in his hands. The jury didn't even flinch. The trial didn't last long. The evidence was ironclad. The betrayal? Too detailed. Too gleeful. This wasn't a moment of weakness. It was a full-blown plot. Jessica was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder, attempted fraud, and aiding attempted homicide. Blake got 10 years. Jessica got 25. No parole for the first 15. The moment the judge read the sentence, she turned to me, eyes wide. Not with apology. Not with regret. Just pure, bitter panic. As the bailiff cuffed her, she screamed, I loved you, Ethan. You made me do this. I stood up, buttoned my jacket, and looked her dead in the eye. No, Jess, I said calmly. You just finally showed me who you really were. She fought the cuffs, crying out as they dragged her away. Reporters swarmed. Flashbulbs exploded, and I walked out of that courtroom free, not just from her, but from everything she infected in my life. It was over. The war, the waiting, the quiet rage. But freedom's funny. It never really feels like you expect. Because sometimes, when you burn the bridge, you still smell the smoke for weeks after. A month after the verdict, the world quieted down. The news cycle moved on. Jessica's mugshot was buried under fresher scandals. Blake's name disappeared from Twitter hashtags. Even the courthouse reporters, once rabid for details, found new meat to chew. But me? I was just standing in the middle of the wreckage, finally breathing. Freedom didn't come with applause or champagne. It came with silence. Empty drawers. A closet half full. Wedding photos boxed up in the garage. There were days I'd walk into the kitchen expecting her to be there. Not because I missed her. Hell no. But because habits are louder than memories. She'd been in every part of my life like mold between tiles. And even now, with the rot removed, the cracks remained. People asked if I was okay. I'd say, yeah, better every day. What I meant was, I'm still learning how to wake up without anger in my throat. The company? It bounced back. Once the drama faded, clients returned, impressed by how I handled it all. Some even respected me more. Said I was calm under fire. They didn't know I spent most nights staring at the ceiling, replaying everything like a cursed movie reel. And my friends? Half of them disappeared during the storm, scared to take sides. But the real ones, like Tyler and Riley, stayed. They showed up, helped me clean out the house, took me to dinner, never asked how I felt, just sat with me in the silence. One evening, I found myself back at the beach where Jessica and I had taken our engagement photos. It was almost funny. Same waves, same air. Different man. I stood there with my hands in my jacket pockets, watching the sunset bleed across the sky, and I thought about the version of me who used to believe in vows. In forever. In soft mornings and shared toothbrushes. That guy was dead. And honestly, good. He needed to die so I could be reborn. The next morning, I finally did it. Walked into our bedroom, my bedroom now, and opened the drawer she never let me touch. I pulled out every letter she'd written, every card she forced sentiment into. I tossed them all in a bin, poured lighter fluid, lit a match, watched her words turn to ash. But I kept one thing. A photo. Not of us. Just her. Standing on a balcony in Greece, looking smug and untouchable. I framed it, placed it on the garage wall, and scribbled 3 words across the glass in red marker. You failed, sweetheart. Because that's what she needed to remember. She didn't just lose the money, or the company, or her freedom. She lost the war. And me? I didn't just survive. I won. Not by reacting with rage, or fists, or tears, but by outsmarting her at her own game. By being colder than she ever imagined I could be. I got messages from strangers, men going through divorces, betrayals, breakdowns. They asked me how I did it, how I didn't fall apart, how I turned the knife back on the one who twisted it first. And I told them the same thing every time. You don't heal by holding back. You heal by facing the fire, walking through it, and letting it turn you into something no one can ever burn again. Jessica's prison sentence made the headlines for a day. My peace. That's permanent. But this story still had one chapter left. Because I wasn't done. Not until I said everything that needed to be said. They say time heals everything. That's a lie. Time doesn't heal. It just makes the edges dull enough so you stop bleeding every time a memory cuts you. But the scars? They stay. And I wear mine like armor now. It's been 6 months since the trial. Jessica's been rotting in prison for 183 days. And me? I've rebuilt everything she tried to destroy. Only better. But if you're reading this because you're going through something like I did, if you're staring at a face you once trusted and wondering why it suddenly looks like a stranger's, let me give you something real. Here's what I learned from the woman who looked me in the eye and said, I love you, while planning my funeral behind my back. 1. If your gut whispers, listen. There were signs. Way before the cameras. Way before Blake. The long showers. The fake yoga classes. The moments where she flinched when I touched her. I saw it all and chose to believe her over myself. Never do that. When something inside you feels off, it's because something is. 2. Love doesn't justify betrayal. Jessica used to cry and say things like, you don't understand what it's like to feel empty. She blamed the affair on how emotionally unavailable I became while running the company. That's not love. That's manipulation with mascara and perfume. Real love confronts pain. It doesn't kill the person beside you to escape it. 3. You are not weak for being hurt. I won't lie. I had days where I couldn't breathe, where the betrayal sat in my chest like a weight I couldn't lift. I hated myself for not seeing it sooner, for loving her at all. But that pain, that's human. What's weak is pretending you're okay when you're falling apart. What's strong is surviving it. 4. Revenge isn't violence. It's becoming untouchable. People expected me to lose it, to snap, to hit Blake, to scream at Jessica in court. But I didn't, because the real revenge wasn't a punch. It was turning their plot into their prison. It was showing the world who they truly were, and making sure they could never rewrite the story. It was walking away with my dignity when they expected a breakdown. 5. You'll love again, but smarter. I haven't dated since everything went down. Not because I'm bitter, but because I'm clear. Clear about what I want, what I deserve. The next woman I let into my life won't be allowed to hide behind pretty words and fake promises. She'll have to come real, or not at all. You see, when Jessica whispered to her lover about the plan to watch it happen, she didn't just try to kill me. She rebuilt me. Stronger, colder, sharper. She taught me how dangerous blind trust can be. And she reminded me that sometimes the monster doesn't break into your home. It kisses you goodnight. But if you're sitting in the dark right now, wondering if you'll ever get out, if you'll ever stop hurting, listen to me. You will. You'll wake up one morning, and her name won't taste like poison anymore. You'll stop looking for answers in old messages. You'll look in the mirror and recognize the man staring back. And one day, you'll smile. Not because she's gone, but because you're still here. Alive. Strong. And finally, free.